In this video, we're going to cover the diversity of activities that you can create in your courses, folders, and projects. To get started, please log into Echo as a teacher and then go to any course that you'd like. I'd recommend going to a sandbox course so that any kind of mistakes that we make with trying out different activities doesn't affect ourselves or our students. When you've clicked on your course, next you want to go to the course editor. And in Course Editor, you have a couple places where you can create activities. So if you want to do it within a project, you need to drill down to the point in organization that you want to go. So let's say under Benchmark 1, I want to add an activity. I would click on this link right here. It says Add to Benchmark 1. And I have all of these options here. Now for activities, you really want to focus on what's below this middle line here, this line dividing things. And the way I look at these activities is, on the one hand, these are kind of sharing information activities, so they're not even really gradable activities. On this side, we've got quite a few here that are gradable but are not. I would say these are more student-oriented activities. So this is the teacher-oriented side, this is the student-oriented side. We've got a bunch of options here. Embed code, file attachment, Google Drive document, rich text activity, website link, and YouTube video. I'm going to take a moment. I've already set up some activities and I just want to show off what this will look like if you choose to do any of these. Then we're going to return here, and some of these are pretty deep and they're going to require another video to explain, but I at least want to show you what they are. So let me show you the kinds of activities that you as a teacher you're doing the sharing. I'm going to close up my project here, and here are a couple of different ways of sharing information with your students. The first one option was embed code. So every website has sometimes, not always, but sometimes has the ability to take what they have and put it into your own website. Teachers of Science know this website called PhET, P-H-E-T, and it has simulations that you can do online that do a great job of modeling different scientific ideas. So I went here and I found that they have the ability to embed their simulation into your own website. So when I click on that and I copy all of this, I can paste it into my Sandbox course. So when I click on this and I share it with my students, when they see it, this is what they see. So I have, so this is the whole simulation right here. They don't have to leave Echo in order to go to the website. It takes, classroom management wise, it cuts out some extra steps, which could be cutting out some extra confusion. And they click on it and they can play around with it or follow directions that I may have put on there. So this is a nice little demonstration for them on forces in motion. So that's an embed code. Next is if you want to attach a document, so whether you want to attach an assignment that you've written in a Google Doc or a Word doc, or you want to do, in this case, a picture, a nice little joke that I have for students, you can do that as well. So, nice little joke there. Another one is Google Drive. You can attach anything in your Google Drive to be on display to your students. So I want to take a moment now to talk about a resource that we're going to make available to you. This here is the matrix of what kinds of completion options does each activity provide. So if you want a more simplified one-page view of what do different kinds of activities do for you and do for your students, this is pretty good. So for example, website link, you can see what boxes they check in terms of your students here, and you can make it, helps you with your decision making process, what kind of things you want your students to accomplish. A rich text activity is probably the freest form of an activity you can create for Echo. Basically you write whatever you want in there, and that's it. Like, there's no, you can add pictures, you can add other things, but if you want lots of freedom, this is the best way to go. The next one would be links. You can add links so that when students click on it, they can go to a specific web page. In this case, I chose to do New York Times. So if I want them to do any kind of reading, they have that available there for them. You can create blogs, so students can make their own blogs. In this case, when I go look at it, I will see the student blogs. I believe these are not made public, but I will have to double check and make certain of that. Alright, this is taking too long. So you can also create tasks. So now I'm starting to get on this other side of the list here. So I was talking about blog. You can also make tasks as well. So if you want to do, for example, here's an activity I said for homework, go talk to your neighbor and discuss how they recycle. And this is a task. You can also add different kinds of scores here. So if you want knowledge and thinking, written, comm, or any of the other swallows, you can do that here. You can set what a passing score is if it's auto-graded. So you have, this is when you're looking for things in which to grade a task or rich text is the two most often activities for grading things that are more free form. Now some things that I'm going to go more in depth in other videos are assessment, peer assessment, and question set. Especially assessment and question set. These are two where you can create questions online for level 1 kind of questions where you're trying to assess everybody whether or not they learn the basic vocabulary or basic concepts. Peer assessment is going to be used for peer feedback rubrics at the end of a project, and that will be a separate question, separate video as well. There are a couple other options here, discussions and journals. These are good ways to have students write online. A discussion is more of an interactive, it's just as it sounds, it's a discussion online. And a journal is a place where you can have students continually write over a period of time. Something I could see very useful for ELA, but not exclusively. I could see it in my science classes. An RSS feed is a very curious thing. It was around in the early 2000s, and it was a way to take news and put it on one website, and you can gather news from many sources, so you don't have to go to a bunch of websites over time. You can just go to one website and see all of it come up there. And this is kind of what it would look like. You'd have to go to a website to actually get the actual web address for the RSS feed, but it's nice if you want students to research the news in quick little snippets. So here's the environmental news from the New York Times, and they can read this here. It's a nice little feature if you want your students to read the news. Finally, Wiki is a place where it's kind of like a discussion forum, but it's a lot more involved. It's more of a creative process with students. So those are different kinds of activities you can use. I hope that you found this very helpful.